the holiest of the holy ones, to see that everything's holy, and to have Jesus put us on the floor every day with gratitude to God that it isn't true. The world's not true. Everything we thought, felt, imagined cannot stand in the light of divine being. How precious is this? All those things we want to clutch, as Jesus said, see that they're clutched tightly by the hands of the dead. You're right. When you start asking him questions like, Jesus, do I not want to see my innocence? And he goes, okay, right. Okay, so I don't want to see that I'm innocent. But at least it's a starting place for a conversation with the one who knows we're innocent. Do I want to say no to innocence? I'm willing to look, Jesus. He says supreme happiness depends on that, seeing how it's not wanted. Okay. So we look together. Jesus is saying that our only function together is supreme happiness. We've only gathered for that. To be supreme happiness, to be that. There's no other function in this world than for two or more to be gathered in his name. Infinite unchanging. Infinite innocence. We can only meet where the world does not exist. He says, meet me there. Where you have no name, no form, no ideas, no mind wanderings, infinite light. And just to see so simply how you don't want to be that. That little video I do, it's so appreciative, you know, you see that love coming through your mighties to support you with that little video that Dara did, where we start talking about joining, and I mentioned running, and so she had that little runner running away. Oh, let's ask Jesus about that one. Jesus, do I have a desire for an experience as running away from divine light? To hide in a closet from divine light? To run from my brother, to seeing what's true? Go naked, empty-handed to your God. Go empty-handed to your brother and let him bestow the gifts of life upon you. To let the voice for God sing in you like it's the only song. Let's ask Jesus, is that the only song worth coming out of this mouth? Does supreme happiness depend upon that song singing out of this mouth? And see, it's your function, our function. God speaking to God, really. And not pretending to be anything else other than God, he says. I came for the salvation of the world. Jesus, did I come for the salvation of the world? The love in that one thought. Accept it, he says, just accept that one thought. It's like the gateway to see that salvation's already here. These are what these thoughts of God are in this book. They're thoughts that point to the infinite dial. To see what can never be changed. Salvation come. That our only function is to bask in the grace of God. That's a simple function. He says you just need to see with me that you don't want to bask in God's grace. So let's, okay. Jesus, will you show me where I don't want to bask in God's holy grace? He says, see the power of heaven carried in the willingness to ask that question. I came for the salvation of the world. Is that my true purpose, Jesus? Is that my only purpose, Jesus? Es todo. That's the whole package. That's all there is. He keeps saying, that's it. Like, ta-da. And then we look at everything that denies ta-da is already, it's already here. Okay, Jesus. Here is a thought from which all arrogance has been removed. All arrogance removed. Like he gives us these power thoughts. The higher order thoughts, he calls them. The thoughts of God. The loving thoughts. The thoughts of completion, wholeness, the infinite nature of being. The thoughts that express what we are in wholeness. I came for the salvation of the world. To see that I'm already salvation itself. Here's a thought from which all arrogance has been removed and only truth remains. He says arrogance is just saying no to light. That's all arrogance is. That makes it simple. Jesus, do I want to be arrogant by saying no to infinite light? Just look directly. Okay. He says, let's be light about the looking. If you stay with me, he's saying, you stay with me, I'll show you it's light. This is not the Jesus torture chamber in here. See that that's a play in consciousness. The desire for the experience of being tortured in order to wake up. To see that torture is impossible. It seems like a long route if we go that one. Stay with me. And speak to me as he's called. We're all called here to speak to Jesus and speak the words of Jesus. And then the diversity of the beauty of that one voice singing heaven together. The sound may be different, the intonation may be a little different, but we know for sure where that voice is coming from. Infinite dial. We can hear it in these sessions. You hear that infinite dial right there. So our brother recalibrates us and tunes this tuning fork to God through our brother. Two or more are gathered in his name. Little, when I first read that, could I know, because the desire was not to know. Jesus was his, yeah, okay. But then we can admit it. Just go, all right, I don't want to know that I'm the great race. Synonymous with all that is. Here is a thought from which all arrogance has been removed and only truth remains. I came for the salvation. Yeah, the ego would call that arrogant to say. Ask Jesus, would the ego call this arrogance? To say I've come to save the world? That's different from saying I have come to save the day. Very different. That's the hero of the dream plan. I'm going to save bodies, and that's saving up thoughts in a future. That's saving the desire for the experience of death. So we just gently lay that aside. Who can I save? He said that's avoidance from looking in, or looking in, to see that you can hear me clearly. You have no other function than to come to save this world. To bear the news of my voice into this world, not for the world, not for anyone, just as an expression of the divine light that's given within, its expression at all that the Father gives. For arrogance opposes truth. That's to be in opposition to the light. Jesus is arrogance in opposition to light. Will you show me where there's arrogance to say no to light? The arrogance to say no to light. Okay. That's why true humility is to admit the denials of divinity, that the light's already here, starting with the light of infinite being, the unchanging. Jesus says that's the only place to start. Timeless. Is the light that's here timeless? Changeless. Infinite. He says, rest here. It's the only place you can rest, because it's you. It's the one. Indivisible. Can this be divided, light? Immutable. Unknowing. He says, this is the way to know it's real. Spend time here. He says, I cannot show you what you do not wish to see. Yet you can choose to see it because you're infinite being. I can merely point to where you just want to say no to infinite being. See that the light doesn't need any help seeing what infinite being is because it just is. For arrogance opposes truth. But when there's no arrogance, the truth will come immediately. See that in the holy instant, truth is immediate. Does truth wait for time? Truth is identity. He reminds me about the thought that two thoughts can come along, a set, and then one thought could be more truthful than another. Let's ask them. So Jesus, when there are two sets of thoughts and I'm comparing them, have I just denied light? He says that's what it means to order your thoughts, to try to have some thoughts more important than other thoughts, and then get lost in thought. Does getting lost in thought deny divinity? Asked Jesus. Does mind wandering deny divinity? It's just a play in consciousness. We can ask his help. Can I ask your help on that at any time? It's just a simple conversation. How precious. It's a simple conversation with each other, and thus the one who knows. But when there's no arrogance, the truth will come immediately and fill up the space the ego left unoccupied by lies. Okay, might as well ask. You start to know what he's going to say because we already know what he's going to say. Jesus, do I have a desire to fill my mind with, occupy my mind with lies? That sends smoke signals right there. He says, be of good cheer, because to see the choice to deny is the gateway to heaven. Because then we see we don't have to choose that anymore. Like they say in Solaris, the end. We don't have to think like that anymore. Jesus, let's ask him just for fun, because to be playful. So much love in being playful with Jesus, so much love. Do I have a desire to think thoughts against myself? Is there any need for that? Is the light saying, okay, here's the thoughts you have to think? Do I have divine power to drop all thoughts? As we've checked before, I love the light test. That's the best test of all. It's start to see, is this true in the light of divine being? Are thoughts true in the light of divine being? Your head automatically. That's how you we learn to listen to the voice through this inquiry with Jesus, learning to ask him questions so that the answers, divinity can respond. Our divine truth, what we are, responds. Can the ego respond to these questions? It'll make up a whole story about these. The ego's favorite thing is to tell the story, well, when I used to be light, when I saw that I was the light a few days ago, ask Jesus if ask him if that's a favorite story to tell. He says that, and Jesus, what have you done for me lately? Story. He's really funny because he knows what our sense of humor is. And he says, let your way be light. Who's the one who's making it serious? Who remembered not to laugh? That's a good one. I love that one. Who? Jesus, did I have a desire for an experience of remembering not to laugh? Now we can just laugh when he tells you, yeah. But then we're in the admission, the honesty of God. See, he's not, does he immediately come in and strike you with lightning? That's the ego's play. We're going to get struck by lightning if we look to see we denied divinity. You see that the light's just here. The light doesn't send down bolts of lightning. See if the light's sending bolts of lightning anywhere. It's good to look. Yes. Then you can't be afraid because you just see, wait, there's just light. Wait a minute. And through hearing this voice and speaking to this voice, you just won't be afraid of anything. Because you'll see it's all fabricato. That's probably not a word. It's all fabricated. Let's ask them. It's good to be reminded. Jesus' fear of fabrication. Is that a fabrication? Okay. Is that a miscreation? See, once we admit that admission, fears of fabrication. What else is a fabrication? Because it seemed like fear was something that you had to experience. Jesus, did I desire an experience as though fear was something I had to experience? Okay, it's just the play in consciousness. It's just that little play. The little consciousness adventure that never was. It's so good to ask, does light know what this is? Infinite light know what fear is? That's the light test. Take it to the light. Okay, let's see what else we think's real. We can just ask the light about. Then it becomes really simple. When there is no arrogance, the truth will come immediately. See, that's no arrogance. When we're asking the light to teach us. Because then we're admitting we don't know what anything's for. Constantly asking Jesus. Like really being open. He says, if you pick the answer already, as he told us in a course, right? We like to pick the answer and then come for confirmation. And then we want to insist, but Jesus. So true. You just see you're so wrong. It's so much happiness though. Fill the space the ego left unoccupied by lies. It feels good to leave some space unoccupied by lies. He says your salvation rests in that. And Muji says, when you can stand your own silence, you're free. Let's ask Jesus that. Are we free when we can stand our own silence? That's what it is, not being able to stand the silence. Ask him, how much do I not like silence? He'll say, not much. If you're not at perfect peace, that's part of it. We want to toss silence. Jesus, do I want to toss out silence? Yep. Okay. Obviously, I need help. So, yet he says, even if you want every lie in the book, and the ego has a long list of them, it has it counts them twice, checking the list, counting it twice. See, do the light test with every lie. Can any lie stand before the light of divine being? Even if we wanted to. Even if we want to stuff every thought into light, fill it up. Does the light change? So that's the ego's project, is to try to stuff as many thoughts in there. That's the prize, Jesus. That's the project. The project is to have a bunch of thoughts and then compare thoughts to try to find a better thought than the other thought, to try to get salvation in thought. It's consciousness is a thought factory. A thought, and it's a thought surfing factory. So the thoughts get generated, and then we want to surf them, ride them until we find the next wave of thought. We can take a whole new. You can ask the light. We can all hear the light. Jesus goes, exactly. Only the ego can be limited. Okay, so let's ask him, Jesus, am I trying to experience myself as limited through thought? So it's the thought believed factory discombobulation. He says, just don't believe them. Are any thoughts true in the light of divine being? It's so humbling. And then you catch yourself painting thoughts, painting little thought pictures. Jesus, do I like to manufacture thought pictures? He says the whole world's a thought picture. A picture paints 1,000 words. We might need to think about that. Might be backwards. Thoughts paint 1,000 pictures. That's why the world has to end in happy laughter. There's no place else to go except happy laughter. Okay. We were watching,
what was it?
no, he said no, so I won't talk about it. And he tells you what not to say too. He's going to tell you all kinds of things, but you have to even ask if you can say them. He was talking to me about that this morning. Like, no, you don't say anything about what I say unless I tell you to say it. Okay. That's having him be in control of the miracles. And that's learning to follow guidance so explicitly. And ask them, see, do I share that? Do I not share it? Is that in purpose? Then we can be sure that the only words that come from our mouth are his. This and thus ours as divine beings. Only the ego can be limited, and therefore it must seek for aims which are curtailed and limiting. Okay, so let's ask them. Jesus, do I have a desire to seek for aims which are curtailed and limiting? To play with the ego, to dance with the devil and feel limited. He says, just ask me, and so I can show you. And we're seeing that reflected out in our mighties, the precision. He keeps talking. Accuracy, saying accuracy, precision, directness. You can see how quick that correction is in the beings, in the light circles reflected when they're we go to grace. And then again, with, well, actually both Melissa and Janet yesterday, you can just watch the power of willingness, regardless of what's arising, to stay with Jesus. As Muji calls it, the ego will throw stones in the bush. And the power of choice not to follow the wrong mind. Like as Jesus tells you something, and then you see, oh my gosh, this is it. Wow, I'm light. And almost immediately, Marguerite's talked about that too. It seems like a punching bag or something. It's like, don't believe it, he says. Don't believe it. Just stay with that voice. That's why he's light training us to stay with that voice, regardless of what's showing up in form. You know, and he keeps giving us Hacksaw Ridge and Joker to stay with the light, regardless of what's in form. Because it's the only truth. It's truth. You know, it'll seem like, holy smokes, Jesus, I've been just listening to you and following you. What do I have this big whopping old headache? And he's telling me right now, he's saying, so you can see that with me. Because what's starting to come through is all the stuff that used to be denied. And it's running ramshod over your experience. And he's reminding me, and then in the book it says, trust that whatever is appearing, he says, you're with me now. So just trust whatever's appearing. I will lead you. I will show you the way. I'll show you that you need not fear, because you have accepted the invitation to yourself. Yeah, but we really need to stay with the light training, stay with the light, infinite light. Do the light test on everything. Is this true in light? Is this true in light? Just do the light test. The ego thinks that what one gains, totality must lose. And yet is the will of God, I learn that what one gains is given unto all. Yet it is the will of God, I learn that what one gains is given to all. Jesus, can you show me that? How what I gain is given to all. See, the only gain is love, and that's given to all unceasingly. In the light of divine being is the gain always love. That's the only gain there is. It's the only gain there is. Ask Jesus. And yet it is the will of God, I learn that what one gains is given unto all. Father, your will is total. And the goal which stems from it shares its totality. Will you show me that the goal that stems from the Father's will is totality, is its totality? He says, ask me on these things. It's just a conversation with me. See, he's saying it's just a conversation with me. You can ask, can you show me this, Jesus? It's that kind of it's the fireside chat. Okay, so, or I don't understand what this means right here, Jesus, and the goal which stems from God's will shares totality. It's totality. It's coming from wholeness, coming out of the infinite, beyond this world. Let's ask him, Jesus, is God's will beyond this world? What aim but the salvation of the world could you have given me? Aw, what aim could he give us? Let's ask. Would God give us any other aim than this? And what but this could be the will of myself, the will myself has shared with you? And what but this purpose of saving the world could be the will of myself with the capital S has shared with you? So we can ask Jesus, Jesus, is your will for me to see that I'm saved now? See that it cannot be the will of the Father for you to be saved at a future date. This would not be in alignment with the Father's will. Ask Jesus. Is it the Father's will that I wait another day to see that I'm saved? Not one more day. I love that. Muji said, why not today? Why not today? That's a good question to ask Jesus. What am I waiting for, Jesus? To see infinite lights here already, and I'm already saved and innocent. He says, just keep giving me the scissors and the guns and the bazookas and the hand grenades, and keep joining with your brother. He says you don't want to see that you're innocent. Just talk to me about that. Jesus, do I not want to see that I'm innocent? Okay, will you show me the desire not to to see myself as innocent? Lovingly. You raise me up, comes to mind. I can be on mountains. And see that your brother, holding your brother's hand and Jesus' hand, is just straight up. With these holy, purposeful relationships, with the relationships only in purpose to see what's true. And it will be shown that all there is light and supreme happiness and joy. Joy to the world is our only song. Amen. I love that in the Spanish. Adios, go with God, right? Go with God. It's the only way to fly.